Have you ever noticed that sometimes, after a conversation with someone, you're left with this strange heaviness? Outwardly, everything seemed fine, no harsh words were said. But inside there's this nagging feeling that something was off. You start replaying the exchange in your mind, searching for the hidden twist, and somewhere along the way you realize you're no longer standing firmly on your own ground. You're doubting yourself, questioning your memory, maybe even your sanity. That subtle unease, that quiet erosion of certainty, is often the first trace of emotional manipulation. The tricky thing is, manipulation doesn't always arrive in the form of aggression or cruelty. It often comes dressed in care, in charm, even in what sounds like support. A manipulator rarely says something blunt like, "You must do this." More often it's softer, disguised something like, "I was really counting on you," or "I thought you, of all people, would understand me." And you feel that pull, not because the words themselves are objectively harmful, but because they awaken guilt, responsibility, or fear inside you. That's how the hook is set, and what makes it so disorienting is that from the outside, nothing looks alarming. If you tried to explain to someone why you felt uneasy, you might not even have the words for it. That's the genius of manipulation. It doesn't just bend reality in the interaction. It bends your perception of yourself. It sets you against your own instincts. Inside, there's a kind of war between what you feel and what you're being led to believe. That clash is called cognitive dissonance, and when it's repeated enough times, it starts to crack the foundation of your self-trust. You begin to wonder, maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe they're right and I'm wrong. And every time you surrender to that thought, even just a little, you give up a piece of your inner authority. Manipulation feeds on that surrender. It doesn't have to force its way in. It simply waits for you to hand over your power bit by bit. Here's something important to remember. Emotional manipulation only works where there's an entry point. And that entry point is almost always connected to our vulnerabilities. Every person carries sensitive spots, places where we want reassurance, where we fear loss, where we crave love or recognition. Maybe you can't stand the idea of disappointing people. Maybe you're terrified of being abandoned. Maybe you long for approval. Manipulators don't create those soft spots. They discover them, and they press on them. So protecting yourself isn't just about memorizing the tactics manipulators use. It's about knowing yourself deeply enough to recognize where you're most likely to give in. Ask yourself, in what moments do I most often compromise my truth? Is it when someone makes me feel guilty? Is it when someone threatens to withdraw love or attention?
Is it when someone flatters me or promises something I desperately want?
Every one of those is a door, and when you don't realize the door is there, anyone can walk through it. One of the simplest yet most powerful forms of protection is to give yourself permission to pause. Manipulation thrives on urgency, on pushing you into quick emotional reactions before you've had time to reflect. If you can slow down, take a breath, say you'll think about it, refuse to give an instant answer, you already break half the spell. Because the manipulator's biggest advantage is speed. Their words hit your emotions before your reason can catch up. A pause gives your reason a chance to step in. That pause also creates space for you to check in with yourself. You can ask, what am I actually feeling right now? Am I agreeing because it makes sense or because I'm afraid of conflict? Am I going along because I want this or because I don't want to lose their approval? These questions anchor you back in your own reality. They help you notice the difference between your genuine choices and your fear-based reactions. Another layer of defense is strengthening your relationship with your own boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls you build to keep people out. They're the lines that define where you end and another person begins. Without them, manipulation seeps in easily, because you're not sure what belongs to you and what belongs to someone else. A strong boundary sounds like, I understand what you're asking, but that doesn't work for me. Or, I care about you, but I'm not comfortable with this. It's not aggressive, not dramatic. It's clear, steady, rooted. Now I know that even saying this can feel frightening if you've been conditioned to avoid conflict. Boundaries often bring up guilt. You might worry that you're selfish, that you're pushing people away. But here's the truth. Boundaries don't break healthy relationships. They reveal them. The people who truly value you will respect your limits. The ones who don't, they weren't respecting you to begin with. Another thing to notice is that manipulation often works by isolating you from your inner compass. You start relying on someone else's version of events, someone else's definition of what's right, someone else's measure of your worth. That's why part of protecting yourself is rebuilding a strong sense of self. A core you can come back to, no matter how much someone tries to sway you. This can look like journaling your own truth after difficult interactions, so you don't lose track of what actually happened. It can look like practicing small daily affirmations of your reality, reminding yourself, my feelings are valid, my memory is reliable, I'm allowed to trust my perception. Over time, these practices restore the trust that manipulation tries to erode. It's also worth mentioning that manipulation is not always conscious. Some people use these tactics without fully realizing what they're doing, because it's how they learned to get their needs met. That doesn't excuse the harm, but it does explain why manipulation is so widespread, and it's why developing awareness is vital, not just to protect yourself, but to make sure you don't unconsciously use the same tactics on others. Ultimately, protecting yourself from emotional manipulation isn't about building armor so thick that no one can reach you. It's about cultivating clarity, resilience, and self-trust. It's about learning to pause when you feel pressured, to anchor back into your own feelings, to name your boundaries calmly and confidently. And it's about remembering that your worth doesn't depend on anyone else's approval. When you carry that inner steadiness, manipulation loses its grip. It can still knock at the door, but it won't find a way in. Because the truth is, no matter how skillful someone is at twisting words or emotions, the strongest defense will always be your own ability to trust yourself. And if you've been manipulated in the past, if you've walked away from relationships or conversations, feeling broken, doubting, ashamed, let me tell you this, recovery is possible. Those experiences may have shaken your sense of self, but they didn't destroy it. You can rebuild. You can learn to listen to your instincts again, to honor your feelings, to reclaim your inner authority. It takes time, it takes gentleness, but it is absolutely possible. At the end of the day, protecting yourself from emotional manipulation isn't about being suspicious of everyone or building a life of distrust. It's about walking through the world with awareness. It's about recognizing the quiet signals inside yourself when something feels off and having the courage to respect those signals. It's about remembering that you have the right to your own truth, your own perspective, your own choices. And once you truly believe that, no one can take it away from you.